Calculating, controversial, impactful are but some of the words best used to describe the late Edward Philip George Seaga, Jamaica's fifth Prime Minister. He was born in Boston, Massachusetts, USA on May 28, 1930. He attended Wilmer's Boys School and Harvard University. Mr. Seaga in 1962 became one of the youngest members of Parliament under the Sir Alexander Bustamante-led Jamaica Labour Party. He eventually became leader of the party from 1974 to 2005. As opposition leader, one of the most memorable events was Bob Marley's attempt to bring about peace at the One Love concert with his political rival, Prime Minister Michael Manley, at the National Stadium on April 27, 1978. Marley was shot. The name Edward Seaga is synonymous to Tivoli Gardens, a part of the West Kingston constituency which was his loyal political base and where he was deified. Born out of the slum of Abaca Wall, the residents never wavered in their support for him. He, in turn, was fiercely defensive of his fiefdom. Having won the leadership of the party in 1974, it was not until 6 years later that he was to earn the political spoils of the highest office. This was no easy feat, as the country paid a deadly price in blood leading up to the elections. It was a massive landslide. The fear of communism, the shortage of basic items, and a PNP government running out of ideas provided the backdrop to the historic victory, 51 to 9 seats.
I, Edward Philip George Seaga, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors, according to law, so help me God.
His political capital started waning, and in 2 short years, the JLP were on the defensive. The shattered economy meant tough decisions, and the International Monetary Fund program was unrelenting. The doses of economic medicine meant more hardship. Edward Seaga was not only the first among equals, but also the man in charge of the Ministry of Finance and Planning. A sliding dollar placed his political life on a slippery slope, giving the opposition much to relish, with even a march on the Bank of Jamaica by his nemesis Michael Manley. The coup in Grenada gave Mr. Seaga a welcome distraction. The subsequent invasion of Grenada by the United States saw Prime Minister Edward Seaga playing a critical role. His support of the move was to send a strong message to Cuba and to ensure that the communist policies would not deepen in the Caribbean region. On October 25, 1983, the U.S. invaded and Jamaica deployed Jamaica Defense Troops as part of the support infrastructure. The Seaga-led administration ensured that they controlled the narrative which came out of the Spice Island by deploying his Minister of Information and employing a public relations firm. It was against that background Mr. Seaga decided to take the calculated risk and call a snap election only 3 years after his resounding victory at the polls, and 2 years before it was due. What happened next, no one saw coming. The opposition PNP, led by his arch-rival Michael Manley, decided not to contest the polls, based on what they said was the breach of a solemn pledge not to hold another election on the old voters' list. Jamaica's political stability was turned on its head, with many suggesting that it was not sustainable. In what many described as a political stroke of genius, Prime Minister Seaga's appointment of several independent-minded and PNP-affiliated persons to the Senate saved our democracy from further setback. Mr. Seaga's strong will and autocratic leadership style was in stark contrast with his introverted personality. Many would misunderstand him as a man who admitted that he was not given to small talk. His way or the highway was the order of the day. And soon heads began to butt with unions and, alas, members of his own party. The national strike in 1995, including all major unions, which placed the country in virtual lockdown, set the stage of things to come. The Gang of Five and Western 11 caused the ruling JLP under his leadership to hemorrhage and resulted in the birth of the Bruce Golding-led National Democratic Movement, NDM, made up of mainly disenchanted former members of the Jamaica Labour Party. But it was the PMP who was to benefit, and for as long as he was leader of the party, he was not to win office again, suffering back-to-back defeats at the polls. This, despite his vim, vigor, and vitality. Edward Philip George Seaga cannot only be seen as a politician. His influence was also far-reaching, impacting the social fabric of Jamaica, making him truly iconic. His footprints into Jamaica's political, religious, economic, and cultural landscape are indelible. In 2005, he hung up his political gloves and made his final walk from Gordon House, where among the changes he sought was the very angle at which cameras would shoot him during his presentations. At eye level, no more top-of-the-head shots, and that he insisted on.
I now can light my candle, sing my Sankey, and go to my home.
Tivoli Gardens stands as a monument to sporty development among the urban poor. The holistic approach to planning and development of that community resulted in a multi-purpose center being designed to include sport and recreational playing fields. Mr. Seaga was also president of the Tivoli Gardens Football and Netball Clubs. Tivoli Gardens Football Club was founded in 1970 and won many titles. Despite his obvious frailty, Mr. Seaga was always a familiar face at Tivoli Gardens FC matches. In 2004, the Railway Oval, the home of the Tivoli FC, was renamed the Edward Seaga Sports Complex. At the initiative of the former Member of Parliament for South St. Andrew and President of the Arnett Gardens Football Club, Dr. Omar Davies, Mr. Seaga used sport as an agent for peace between the warring neighborhoods of Tivoli Gardens and Arnett Gardens. Mr. Seaga was chairman of the Premier League's Club Association, which sought to professionalize the local sport. And in the so-called Sports of Kings in 1972, he founded the Jamaica Racing Commission, which oversees horse racing. He also helped found the Jockey School. And turning his intellect to academia, in 2007, Mr. Seaga was appointed Pro-Chancellor for the University of Technology, UTech. In his honor, a leg of northbound highway was named the Edward Seaga Highway. And, as if in musical triumph, he was the first to be inducted into the Reggae Music Hall of Fame in February 2019.
Starting West Indies Recording Limited, he produced...
All right then. You expected that now, didn't you?
Produced arguably Jamaica's first #1 hit, Oh Many Oh, for Higgs and Wilson.